This episode is brought to you by Companion. Iris and Josh seem like the perfect match, but when a weekend getaway turns into a nightmare, Iris realizes that things aren't as perfect as they appear. From the creators of Barbarian and the studio that brought you The Notebook comes a twisted tale of modern romance and the sweet satisfaction of revenge. Companion, only in theaters January 31st. Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the individuals participating in the show. All persons described or mentioned in the podcast should be considered innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This podcast contains subject matter such as violence and graphic descriptions along with adult language, which may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Some murders shake the world to its core. Some mysteries never unravel. And some tragedies leave us asking one question: how could this happen? From mass killings that leave entire communities in shock, to unsolved disappearances that haunt families for decades, you'll hear it all on Season 6 of 90s Crime Time. In each episode of this season, we'll dig deep into some of the deadliest massacres to the coldest calculated murders, and you'll find out what made these cases some of the most chilling cases of the decade, even if you haven't heard of some of them. From small towns to busy cities, from quiet nights to violent acts that shatter peace, 90s Crime Time will bring you stories of murder and mystery. So set your calendars and tune in on January 9th, 2024 to the Season 6 premiere of 90s Crime Time. And I'll see you then.
On May 20th, 2016, along Interstate 5 in Rochester, Washington, a Chrysler Sebring is discovered abandoned. The owner is nowhere in sight, and he has not been seen since. What exactly happened? You're listening to the Mysterious Brews podcast, and tonight we bring you the case of Logan Schiendelman.
A search for answers, front and center of the Ware home.
It really has never left our minds from day one. We're always pretty conscious of it just about any day.
It's been 7 years since Logan Schiendelman disappeared. His great-uncle Mike Ware describes him as friendly, outgoing, and always willing to lend a hand.
To be gone, it's a loss for everybody, not just his family.
According to the Thurston County Sheriff's Office, Logan's grandmother reported him missing. He was last seen May 19th, 2016. The next day, deputies say a trooper found Logan's black convertible abandoned near south of Tumwater on southbound I-5.
It was sort of a strange circumstance. Witnesses saw the car pull over. A male subject jumped out of the car.
Welcome to a deep, dark, dank, moist, because it's finally unthawed basement somewhere in the bowels of Georgia.
Dude, it was so cold this week.
It was brutal.
Unnaturally cold.
Brutal, I tell you, brutal. Like in the single digits in the morning with the wind chill.
Yeah, my dog still wants to go out.
Well, mine was living his best life out there. I'm like, you go right ahead there, bud. I'm going to stay right inside. I'll look at you through the window.
I don't got a fence.
So you saying yours would take off?
Oh, yeah. We've been having trouble with a neighbor. It's bad.
We got one of them wireless fences, and it only took once, and mine don't even go close to the flags now. All right, well, I think we had one, maybe not. I don't know. I can't remember.
We've been having difficulty with a neighbor, bro. It's getting real bad. She's kind of old and kind of paranoid. And
is that the one that goes out and check her mail in the thunderstorms?
Yes.
Okay.
She's turned her anger towards us. So.
Oh shit.
And then she came at the other neighbor with a pickaxe, and then they got her on a 5150 right now.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, buddy. Yeah, it's getting bad.
What's the date? Yeah, so we do have one new one. Cody Hanscheck. Welcome to the shit show.
It really is.
Oh man. I don't think we had anything else. I think everybody's just trying to survive the frigid air. You know, the end times are upon us with 8 inches in Pensacola.
That's wild.
I screenshot just to preserve it, but the Jacksonville Airport Facebook page had a post that said, "We are closing at 8 o'clock tonight. We will reopen tomorrow at 10 a.m." So yeah.
When the beaches are covered in snow, you know something messed up's going on.
A lot of people have been having fun with the Cajuns getting snow.
Yes. I saw a bunch of videos of gator sickles.
Yeah. Shoot them, Elizabeth. Shoot them.
As long as they get that nose above water and before it freezes, they'll be fine. But they're frozen. They showed one. It was a video, like 4 or 5 of them. They were pretty much frozen solid.
Excellent.
But they'll be all right.
They're going to get by. Well, I think that's enough of the Bills and Neils. Lee, traveling back to the great state of Oregon. Kinda. Washington. Not Oregon. State of Oregon, boy. You can tell that cold's affected my head.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the great state of Washington. This week we got a head scratcher. The case of the disappearance of Logan. How do you say his name? Schiendelman? Schiendelman.
This one always gets lumped in with Rico Harris. They're pretty similar. Pretty close to each other, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, it's the same. Well, it's the same general vicinity. This one's a little stranger, though, to be honest with you. Logan Drew Schiendelman was born June 27th, 1996, to Mother Hannah and a father he never knew. His mom, Hannah, grew up with her mom, Jenny, in Tumwater, Washington. Now, Tumwater, you may be thinking, is where? Well, that's 60 miles south of Seattle and just north of Olympia. Hannah was a young single mom, and Logan had a sister named Chloe. And before Logan was born, Hannah wound up meeting a young engineer from Saudi Arabia who was working in the States. Now, Hannah wound up getting pregnant, and the man had to return to Saudi Arabia, never getting to meet his son. Now, a lot of people who have researched this case are not sure that this man even knows he has a son in the U.S. Now, Logan grew up with his older sister, Chloe, mom, Hannah, grandma, Jenny, and stepfather, Bill. Now, the little extended family all lived in the same house. And Logan did have his step-grandfather, Bill, and Uncle Mike Ware as father figures, but he did not have anyone in his life that he would refer to as dad. Mike Ware, his uncle, was married to Logan's Aunt Mary, which is, according to what I researched, his grandmother's sister. So that makes Mike his great uncle. Now, Mary and Mike lived fairly close to Logan and Jenny, so he was in his life fairly regularly. At the grand old age of 23, Hannah decided that she was going to move to Olympia, and she left her kids with her mother. And in Olympia, she was going to go to art school. Now, grandmother Jenny would obtain legal guardianship of Logan and Chloe, and that sounds worse than the way that I've read it, because basically she did that so that she could carry her grandchildren on her health insurance, which makes a lot more sense.
Absolutely.
Now, Hannah still had a good relationship with her kids, and Logan would visit his mom quite frequently and spend the night at her place in Olympia. Now, Logan was a standout on the football field, and he played at Tumwater High School, the position of defensive back.
I figured he'd be a wide receiver, but defensive back's pretty much comparable. Because, I mean, he's a tall, skinny kid. Definitely looked athletic, for sure.
Yes. And his high school team would wind up winning the state championship 2 out of the 4 years that Logan was in high school.
Nice.
Yeah. So his friends described him as a popular, funny, and well-liked young man who had pretty good grades, and despite not putting forth a whole lot of effort in his studies, he was also liked by his teachers and enjoyed writing poetry and was really into music. By all accounts, he was just your typical normal teenager.
I don't know. Is it normal for teenagers to write poetry?
I don't know. Nowadays, there ain't. I don't think normal exists, to be honest with you.
I damn sure didn't write poetry when I was in high school.
No,
I didn't write shit.
not unless you held a gun to my head.
I barely wrote anything. I really didn't take high school seriously. Like, it was just.
I didn't until my senior year. Then I was like, oh shit.
As long as I kept eligible for wrestling, I didn't really care. And then once senior year of wrestling was over, I was like, well, might as well finish.
I've come this far.
Well done, just this far.
So after,
I think I finished damn near dead last in my class. I didn't start taking school seriously till college.
I didn't either, but I had the Hope Grant, and so it was well known at my household that if I lost the Hope Grant, my ass had to go to work, start paying shit back, and I was like, I ain't doing that.
Bro, I still owe $65K from college. I've paid every month, every year. Still ain't paid towards principal. What the hell is that?
It's a little plastic thing. I don't know if the camera will pick it up. I don't know. We're cleaning out stuff. You know, we're about to be empty nesters.
I know, right? Your boy moving. That's crazy.
Yeah, we're gonna turn him over to the great state of Kentucky and the infinite wisdom of one man known as Heater. Kind of scared.
I'm sure he'll take good care of him. The whole state.
Just welcome him with arms wide open.
The thing is that son of a gun's going to go to school for 2 years and then come out making more money than both of us.
6 months.
Dang.
Yeah. Yeah, I got a feeling this time next year he'll be knocking on 6 figures. But anyway, after graduation,
of my life.
I know. If I had to do it over again, trust me, I'd be up there with him. But
never too late, bro.
Yeah, that's what he says. My crippled ass hands can't take it. And if you're wondering what he's going to be, ladies and gents, he's going to be a welder. He's been welding since his junior year in high school. So, some gun's making more money now than I was at his age. That's for damn sure.
Yeah. My senior year, I was a census taker.
Oh, there you go.
That's a pretty good little job for $10 an hour, but I got a shotgun pulled on me. So I'm going to put it right to my chest.
You get out of here. I ain't checking you boxes.
Yeah, he said, I ain't telling to give it nothing. I said, nope, you are not. I'll be gone.
I'd have taken the rest of the day off.
I sure did, man. I called my boss. Said I'm just gonna go home. Maybe have
Change my drawers.
Yeah, maybe have myself a little cry. Typical teenage stuff.
So after graduation in 2014, Logan was interested in going to college at Eastern Washington University. There, he was going to room with one of his good friends from high school, but the summer after his senior year, according to his friends, Logan started to change. They would say that he was going through something, but they didn't really know what exactly that was. It was around this time that Logan was at a party where he had some kind of interaction with a girl that he knew fairly well from high school. And this girl made some kind of racist comment or comment specifically about him at the party. Now, depending on who you ask, Tumwater is well integrated, and Logan didn't stand out because he was mixed. You have others that equate Tumwater to a sundown town and say that it had been difficult for Logan to fit in, and at times very difficult.
If you don't know what a sundown town is, just look up Forsyth County, Georgia. You'll get a damn Oprah episode. It was so bad she came to find out why. They didn't appreciate it either.
No, they didn't. That's before she was crazy.
Oh, she always been crazy, bro.
Okay, so that was before her and The Rock was asking for millions when they're worth millions. How about that?
There you go.
Okay. So regardless of where you fall on the spectrum, the incident at the party seemed to be the beginning of Logan withdrawing from his group of friends. Now, rumor is that he felt like his friends at the party didn't do a whole lot to call this girl out to defend him. And not in this type of situation, but we've all been in a situation where you find out real quick who is and who is not your friend. And this was one of those moments for Logan. He stopped responding to their messages, even though they could tell from Facebook that he had read them. And he abruptly canceled his plans to go to Eastern Washington University and decided that he was going to go to Washington State University. And Washington State was a lot bigger than that of Eastern Washington and a lot more diverse in Logan's eyes. Now, the glaring difference is that Logan did not know anybody at Washington State. So his grandmother, Jenny, believes that he was going through some sort of identity crisis and possibly wanted to reinvent himself. Allegedly, it was around this time that Logan had learned the truth about who his father was. Now, let's go ahead and get this shit out of the way. It just drives me crazy. But this case has an underlying racial tone to it that outside of Logan's immediate family, and by immediate I mean those that lived with him, only know how this is going down. It is rumored that despite his grandmother being a white woman, marrying a black man, and having 2 mixed daughters, she tried to keep Logan from connecting with his black side of the family. And the more that I read and the more that I researched, I find this all to be a bunch of bullshit. Basically, you've got a lot of people who are on the outside throwing accusations at the family about their dynamic, and they just need to shut the fuck up. Now, the family, on the other hand, has not done themselves any favor with Logan's mother refusing to talk to the press about anything. So Jenny has been the point person in the press.
Yeah, but I mean, that doesn't mean anything. Maybe she's just not comfortable talking to the press. Why? I mean, why do you say she's not done her any favors? You think opinions are skewed because of the fact she's not open with the press?
She could answer a whole lot of fucking questions that we're going to ask if she would just release one single statement. I'm not saying hold press conferences. Just release a single statement, and we'll get to it. But that's what it is. But anyway, here's the thing that I don't get. Logan's great aunt Tina had come out and said about the time this racial stuff kicked off that Logan had started sharing some Malcolm X quotes on his social media. Okay, that's not the end of the world. I know plenty of people that do that. I just don't.
No, you don't.
Oh, I do, actually. Having worked at that residential facility, I know a lot of people that do it. And here's the thing. Most of them are around the same age as Logan was, and they're looking for something bigger than themselves in the situation where he was 19, and so not quite yet an adult to drink, but you're not in high school anymore. You're kind of, in between there.
Yeah, it's a tough time. I mean, you're just starting school. You don't, you're starting to face things that you've never faced before. And
yeah, and he's just
a pretty tough time for everybody.
He's struggling to figure out where he belongs, what he needs to do. And obviously it sounds like that either his grandmother or his mother dropped the bomb in his lap about, hey, your dad, we think, is in Saudi Arabia, but we're not 100% sure. And that's got to rock his world. And then you got add on top of that, his friends, basically crickets from them at a party where some dumb drunk bitch starts throwing racial slurs at him. Yeah, I mean, the kid had a lot going on in his life. But anyway, I digress.
And that would be pretty shocking if your friends did not come to your defense. Like, that's very revealing to where exactly they stand. That maybe they're not racist themselves, but they're still not brave enough to come, confront it.
Yeah,
it's got to be rough.
And I think that's what kind of led to him moving from Eastern Washington rooming with one of his friends to basically pulling a 180 and going, no, fuck all y'all, I'm going to Washington State.
Right.
So he did leave for Washington State in the fall, and he made friends there pretty quickly. He would date off and on, but unlike Coach and I, he didn't take classes very seriously. So he came home the summer after his freshman year and found himself on a little bit of the academic probation so bad that they would not allow him to enroll in classes the next fall. So basically he moves back home with his grandmother and her husband, Bill. And Jenny says that Logan had a few jobs that included working at a commercial laundry service. But he also spent a lot of time helping his great-uncle Mike Ware on Mike's farm. Now, Mike was a retired Thurston County Sheriff's lieutenant who served that county for 37 years and had been retired for about 2 years the summer that Logan started helping him pretty seriously. Now, Mike cared deeply for Logan and says that Logan was one of the hardest workers who he had ever had. And that's not just him doting on a family member, but that's one of the reasons Mike would state that he paid Logan $20 an hour when he worked on the farm. He said he could always count on him to do what he needed to get done. Jenny says that it was this time that Logan started to seem to her that he was a little bit depressed. He was lonely. He spent a lot of time in his room listening to music or watching movies. He also began to smoke pot at this time. And by smoke pot, I mean smoke the shit out of it.
How you know that?
Because, according to Jenny, Jenny said he smoked so much it started making him paranoid. Now, I know a guy that used to smoke and it made him paranoid.
I do too. He gave that shit up.
Now, Logan seemed to mostly keep to himself, but he did have a relationship with a girl in Oregon that he would talk to and text with. They met on some kind of dating app, but they never physically met in person. These damn kids in these fucking apps.
Think you might have been getting catfished?
I don't think so. The way it read on some other things was they just... I don't know if it didn't ever work out or they tried to meet up and it just plans fell through, but it almost was like an online friend more than girlfriend. That's what it wound up being.
Right.
So on Thursday, May 19th, 2016, Jenny, his grandmother, left for work And she would state that she was getting ready to leave, and it was around 7:45 a.m., and Logan walked into the kitchen from the garage, and he had been out all night, and tells her basically he was out all night, but he wasn't with anybody. He was just driving around listening to music. She recounts that Logan seemed kind of nervous and anxious about something, like he wanted to talk, but he was real hesitant about speaking to her at that time. Something seemed to be bothering him, and he finally looked at her and said, "Grandma, I've had an epiphany," which kind of struck Jenny as odd because that was not a word that she was used to Logan using. But she was already running late and told him that they would sit down and talk that evening when she got home from work. So she heads to her car, and he heads off to his room. Now, she would state that as she's leaving, she doesn't give it a second thought. She felt like everything was fine. Again, he's 19. He's going through, kind of this. I keep saying he's 19. Is he 19? Yes, he is 19.
Yes, he was 19.
Okay. So she got home from work that evening and didn't see Logan's car. So just to make sure, she goes in, checks his room, checks the house. Sure enough, Logan's not there. So nothing's wrong with his car, and somebody had to drop him off or nothing like that. He would not come home that night, and that was Thursday, May the 19th. On Friday, Jenny became alarmed enough to track his phone around 11 a.m. Now, I don't think this was like the Life 360 app. I think this was like through the app, like the iPhone app, where you can, if they've got an iPhone and they're part of your friends and family, whatever, you can get their general location. Now, the locating service for AT&T indicated that Logan's phone was on Boulevard Road in Olympia, which is approximately within about 8 blocks of Steele Street, and that's where his mother lives. So Jenny sees this and feels relief. It's not unusual for him to not come home, but as the morning turns to afternoon and she still has not heard from him, she tracks his phone again. This time, it's still near his mom's house in Olympia. So again, she's like, okay, but she's got this nagging little feeling in her gut. And she says that something's off. And when he didn't come home that night, she called her daughter, Hannah, Logan's mom, and tells her, hey, Logan's not been home since Thursday night, or Thursday morning, really. And mom's like, no, he has not come to my house and not been here in a week. So this sends Jenny into a panic.
Absolutely. I would definitely I would hit the fan at this point.
Yeah. So
we gotta get the law involved. We gotta get somebody, because this is not normal.
No. So she gets in her car and she starts driving around Tumwater looking for Logan's car, which was a black 1996 Chrysler Sebring, but she can't find it. So she decides she's going to report him missing. She drives over to the Thurston County Sheriff's Office, and to her surprise, the sheriff's office was closed on this Saturday.
That's a small town.
Yes, yes, it is.
If the police station is closed
on a Saturday,
man, that small town don't close.
Now, the only way to get in touch with law enforcement would have been for her to make a 911 call. And for whatever reason, Jenny decides not to call. And she is going to just wait until Monday to report Logan missing. Hindsight being 2020, Jenny is thinking that Logan is going through some stuff and he's an adult. There's probably been many a times where he's been out partying with friends or just staying the night at a friend's house and didn't let her know his whereabouts. But I don't know. I see both sides of this, and I know me and my wife have been spoiled because my 19-year-old he just goes to work, goes and gets something to eat, and kind of hangs out with his friends every once in a while. But I know me at 19, and I was dumber than a box of shit, and I just wouldn't tell my parents where I was going. And it wasn't because I was trying to hide stuff. It was just because I didn't think, hey, we're having a good time. My parents, we're talking about partying. We talking about parents.
That's back in the day before cell phones.
Thank God.
Yeah, I got into my fair share of shenanigans at 19.
Yeah, I mean, and you just forget. I mean, literally, you forget. So it's not, I guess Jenny's thinking, okay, look, it's Saturday night. He could be off. He could be having a good time. He's still 19. You know, he's not a kid. But at the same time, if you got that nagging sense, you just throw caution to the wind and apologize. I don't know. But anyway. Also, the family, this is another little peek inside the family dynamic, because I can tell you that growing up, when I grew up, and having, you know, in the South, having a father like I did, he would remind us, I don't know, weekly, that as long as you live under this roof, you're going to abide by my rules, and you're going to call your mama and let her know where you at, or I'm going to beat your ass. And so it's just, I'm not really throwing shade. It's just a different family dynamic that I'm used to. And so this may be very normal out in the state of Washington, but, I don't know. It's just hard for me to wrap my mind around. But anyway, so fast forward. Logan doesn't come home that Sunday. So first thing Monday, May 23rd, 2016, Jenny goes and reports him missing. Now, he had not been seen nor heard from in 4 days. And Jenny felt that the detective, and this is just her personal opinion, because I will say this, the law enforcement in this situation, I would have to put them on the Mount Rushmore of doing what the hell they're supposed to do, under the hands that they've been dealt. But Jenny felt like when she told the lead or the detective on duty, hey, my grandson's missing, I need to report him missing, she felt like the detective had this dismissive demeanor or attitude about him. Logan was last seen wearing a black windbreaker, a pair of jeans, a white shirt, and a pair of Nike shoes. Now, not dismissing Jenny's feelings, but from someone looking on the outside in, you're telling a detective that your grandson's missing, but you waited 4 days to report him missing, and he's an adult.
Well, it does sound strange, but I mean, really, your logic about it, he's 19, he could be partying. It's not the weirdest thing in the world for somebody not to come home one night. 4 nights, I don't know.
Well, and I guess the other thing is the perception that you have put forth by waiting 4 days, not being able to get a hold of, because I'm sure she tells the police, hey, I've tried to call, I've tried to text, I've tracked this phone, this is, what it said, this and this. But the perception you're putting forth by not reporting him missing for 4 days is that you were concerned, but you weren't really concerned. So right now, we're just going to take down your information. We're going to do what we need to do, and we'll get back with you. And they do. But Jenny takes it as, I guess she wanted the world to stop. And I understand that. That's your grandson. But it's kind of like a nice edge there. You waited 4 days. Now, if you'd have been there within 24 hours, or if you'd have called 911 that Saturday night and said, look, yeah, this is an emergency. I need an officer, send somebody to this address. I need to report my grandson missing. That may have made it a little bit more, or you may have gotten a more responsive reaction, or a reaction that you wanted. And again, Jenny's upset. So anything that she doesn't deem as positive, she's going to think they're just, dismissing this thing because he's a kid and he doesn't come home sometimes, and he can be, or not, he's not a kid, but he's an adult, and he has the right to just say fuck it and not call anybody. But anyway, Logan was 6 foot tall and doesn't fit the typical type of people that are preyed upon. So kind of, there's not a whole lot to go on. And so the detective does remind Jenny that Logan has every right to go missing if he wants to. He's an adult, and he does not need to be accounted for or answer to anyone because of this. Now, Jenny says that she kind of felt ignored in the whole situation. But keep in mind, though, the detective did ask Jenny before she left the station for Logan's license plate and the vehicle identification number. So it's not like they were like, yeah, we'll get back to you. We got his name. We got your address. They did, kind of take down some vital information there. Now, Jenny gives this information, but tells the detective, look, you got to understand, when you run this, it's not going to come back as Logan. It's going to come back as Jenny and Bill Gibo. And so Monday morning, she reports him missing. By that afternoon, the detective calls and says, hey, we've got his car, and it's actually been in the tow yard since Friday, May 20th.
Oh, wow.
So, if you remember anything from our ramblings, if you take anything away from us, remember 3 things. A, if you're going to commit a heinous crime, rob them.
I mean, seriously, I don't go committing heinous crimes, but
if a man were to,
the money's right there. I don't get it.
Yeah, you're already fucked. Just take the cash.
Like, Blair Adams still sticks out in my mind because, man, he had like $4 or $5 grand worth of cash on him, and then he had gold and platinum. Like, it would have been a good score.
Yeah. Number 2, always ask for a lawyer.
Absolutely. 100%.
And number 3, if you don't take anything else from us, remember, you can find a vehicle a hell of a lot faster than you can find a person.
True.
And kudos to the detective for asking for the tag number and the VIN number. So when you look at
the VIN number just available, though.
Well, she had it, and I was the same way. I was like, what the hell? I'd have to go out there and look at my VIN number. But certain insurance companies in certain states require you to have the VIN number on your insurance card. So she probably was like, here's the tag number, here's the insurance. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay, that's true. That makes sense. But yeah, I'm like, who has the VIN number?
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like when I get on to see if O'Reilly's has a part that I need for something on my truck, when I back into shit and I need a new tail light. And they're like, you can put it in by your VIN number. And I'm like, you'd be easier getting blood from a turnip than me knowing my damn VIN number.
Hell, I probably don't even know where my VIN number is. It's like in the door, right?
It's on the door, and then it's in one corner of the dash. I think it's the bottom left driver's side. But anyway.
I wouldn't know that.
So it seems that when they start looking around, Logan's car was parked on the side of a interstate, and it was towed by the county to their tow yard for appearing to be an abandoned vehicle. Now, most law enforcement entities are going to see what appears to be an abandoned vehicle on the side of the road and not immediately tow it off unless it's impeding the flow of traffic or it's causing a situation where someone could get hurt. I
think they give you like 3 days, maybe.
Yeah,
I think Georgia, if it's on the interstate in Georgia, I think they give you like 3 days. They'll put a little white tag on there, or then it'll be an orange tag, and then it's gone.
Yeah, and it's going to sit there until, in the tow yard, it's going to sit in the tow yard till the owner claims it, or they track down the owner and be like, hey, dude, you need to come get your shit. Jenny is horrified when she hears that Logan's vehicle was found abandoned on the inside shoulder of I-5 south at mile marker 92. Now, the car was found lodged against the concrete barrier in the inside median, like the center median, right at mile marker 92. Now, this mile marker 92 is just south of what is known as the Maytown Rest Area, and that is 10 miles south of Tumwater. And remember, Tumwater is where Logan lives with his grandmother. So we're looking about 11, 12 miles from where he lives. The car is found on the interstate in the center median. Now, and I make a big deal out of the center median because most people, if shit goes sideways, you're trying to get to the outside as fast as you can because you don't want to try to deal with geniuses flying in on that inside lane.
Yeah, I think we both can agree that the middle is much more dangerous than the side.
Yes.
I think that's pretty obvious.
Now, the reports on the condition of the vehicles are scant, to say the least. We do not know if it was found locked, unlocked. We don't know if it had any gas in it. We don't know if there was any damage that would have made it undrivable, if the battery's dead. We don't know shit. What we do know is Reddit tries to fill in some of these blanks, and there's a couple of them that quote a report that possibly one of the doors was open when it was found. With the car being found in the center median, it leads you to think that it may not have been drivable. And like I said earlier, most cars that are abandoned are on the outside shoulder because of either having like a blowout or running out of gas. You're trying to get over there and walk away from the geniuses traveling down the interstate.
Well, it's either undrivable or the person driving left in a big hurry.
Yar.
How they left the car. They just had to get gone.
Now, Logan's
deeply concerning.
Yeah, both situations are shitty. Logan's car was found at about 2 p.m. And I say about because this time comes from some information that Jenny revealed later in the investigation. And that centers around Logan's phone and when calls came in regarding an abandoned vehicle. The closest timestamp on Reddit that I could find when the vehicle was located and determined to be abandoned by the sheriff's department was at 2 p.m. Now, according to this Reddit thread, normally what happens with highway patrol or sheriff's departments or state patrol, whatever, is when they see an abandoned car and they're patrolling, they make a note of it, or like Coach said, they go by and put a sticker on it or put like chalk marks on the wheel or something to let them know, hey, we've seen this, but we're going to give the owner time to come back and take care of this on their own. My guess is that you started getting calls saying that it was in the center median and it was causing a problem with the flow of traffic. And so this makes the highway patrol or the state patrol respond a little bit quicker than normal and they get it towed out of the way. But again, that's just my opinion. And you know, they like elbows. Everybody got a pair. Now, Logan is no idiot. He's a very smart young man. He works hard. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him to abandon his car and not call anybody. And to go even further with that, he has no contact with friends or family for multiple days. We do know that the car was towed by Baker Towing, and it was towed to their lot at the request of the Washington State Patrol, Sergeant Shades. Now, the sergeant said that he found the car and then drove around the area to check for anyone on foot that might be carrying like a gas can or walking towards, an auto parts or a service station. And when he didn't find anybody like that, that's when he calls for the tow truck. When police find the vehicle, they didn't search the car. And this is not a black eye on the police department because at this point, it's just an abandoned vehicle. There's no report of a missing person or a crime. Now, when they located it, their main concern was getting it off the interstate. They had no probable cause to search it, to be honest. And probably did a visual inspection, not finding any damage, not finding any signs of a struggle or blood. They just turned it over to the tow company and said, take it back to your yard. Now, when Jenny, Logan's grandmother, has the vehicle towed back to her home, inside the car, she locates Logan's cell phone, his car keys, a water bottle, and snacks. and either one large paper grocery bag or two large grocery bags. Either way, one large paper grocery bag was sitting on the passenger seat or the center console. Now, there's different news articles out there that report that there was two bags, one on the console, one in the seat, and then there's news articles out there that's just one. It was in the seat, and then there's another one that says there's just one. It was on the console. It doesn't really matter. But they find, like I said, his wallet, and there's $25 cash in it. There's still his
debit card.
That's what I was about to say. And his debit card's still there, along with his driver's license.
He's got nothing. He's got nothing with him to survive.
Yeah, the only thing that makes your spidey senses tingle is they found this in the glove compartment where his registration would have been. Now, it was reported that all of these items were found in the glove box together. Now, here's what you got to understand. If the tow truck driver gets there, and this could be just an innocent explanation, this is hypothetical at best, and he's trying to get this car that's sitting on the inside median the fuck out of there, and he sees all these valuables, he knows that probably his tow lot's not the most secure, so he just grabs all that stuff and dumps it in the glove box so that it's out of sight. And so a lot of these tow lots, they're not, they do have like chain link fence, but they don't have like razor wire and security cameras and shit like that. So they want to make sure that it's as secure as it can be and doesn't have anything that invites someone breaking a window and stealing a wallet or a cell phone. Now, it also could have been done by the police officer that was there when the tow truck driver showed up. Now, it is significant because, like Coach said, he has nothing with him. And it would lead you to believe that if someone was out to harm Logan, their motive was not robbery because they didn't take the cash. And as we all know, if you're going to commit a crime, take the cash. What we do know is that Logan's missing. His car with all his personal possessions has been found in the middle of I-5. And Jenny, his grandmother, knew that Logan loved and took a lot of pride in his car, so she could not fathom him leaving it the way it has been found. Now, it was brought to the public's attention that Logan was highly allergic to peanuts and did not have his EpiPen with him when he went missing. Once again, the reports vary as to whether the EpiPen was found with all of his other belongings or if he had gone out and left his EpiPen at home. Now, after Jenny finds all of Logan's stuff in the car, they call the sheriff's department, and a detective from the Thurston County Sheriff's Office comes out to Jenny's house. And the detective explains who he is and that he's been assigned to the case to start an investigation. And upon arriving, the detective dusts the car for fingerprints, takes photos of the car and the items that were found inside. Now, if something of interest was found, the authorities are keeping it close to the vest. According to the family, this initial search of the vehicle, in their opinion, was just a general cursory search, and it was never forensically processed. So I guess the family was hoping that it would be processed in the manner of checking for blood forensically, kind of like in the trunk or in the floorboards. And since details are few and far between, one would hypothesize that there's no obvious signs of struggle inside the vehicle or on the outside of the vehicle. There are some eyewitnesses regarding Logan's car. Now, we know that a 911 call was made, and in fact, several 911 calls were made regarding the abandoned vehicle. But other than that, no one came forward saying, hey, I saw this guy leave the car and start walking in this direction, or, hey, I saw this car and there was an altercation outside of it. Nothing. detectives, when they came out and dusted the car, did take Logan's computer and his cell phone into custody. They also searched his room while they were there. It has been reported that that a thorough forensic examination of Logan's phone was done, but the findings of such examination did not seem to lead investigators to anything of value. Now, I really do believe that if they had found something on his phone, they would have chased that rabbit. And
the fact that there was nothing on the phone is so mysterious anyway. Like, so he could have literally just, I don't know, man. Like, you would think there'd be some sort of clue on the phone.
Right. And from what I can gather, and they've not released the findings of that forensic dump that they did, but from what I can gather, it's just, basically there's records of phone calls to loved ones and friends. There's text messages to loved ones and friends. There's nothing out of the ordinary that would lead them to believe that this person did this or he was involved in something that he shouldn't have been. So I don't know.
Just don't make sense.
No, it doesn't. This is a head scratcher.
So he literally could have just had a mental break and just took off. Like, literally just took off.
But with everything else that we've discussed in this case, there's always a rub with the family. And according to the family's Facebook page and the Charlie Project page, both state that Jenny, their grandmother, who ran the locating GPS on his phone on Friday, May 20th, and that it showed that he was in the Olympia area near his mother's house. Jenny stated that this was done around 11 a.m. when she tracked his phone. His car was found approximately 3 hours later, closer to 2 p.m. But there is an ID disappeared episode on Logan. And in that interview on that episode, the current lead detective of the case, Frank Foley, says they checked the cell phone records for the phone, and on Thursday night, the phone traveled south on I-5 to southern Washington to the Camas area, and then the phone spent 45 minutes down there. It then went north back to Tumwater at 3 in the morning, and then at 3:45 in the morning, it stopped moving. So by the early morning of May 20th, all phone activity had ceased. Now, this investigator, Mr. Foley, says that he believes the phone died, that basically the battery went dead. Again, this would be May 20th, early morning. The problem with that is I'm not sure, and maybe one of our listeners can tell us, and I didn't do a deep Google search about it, but can a phone still be GPS tracked if the battery's dead? Because remember, she said that she ran this locator at 11 a.m. This is definitely on the surface a very large inconsistency in this case. No one has stated if there were any indication on the phone via text, phone calls, or whatever, what he was doing down in Camas, I think is how you say it. He was meeting somebody, if he was just doing what he normally does, and he was driving around within a 45-minute hour radius of his house. Now, we have a lot of time that seems to go by between when Jenny last sees him, when she's headed out to work, and when the vehicle's found. So we're looking at about 30 hours. And during that time, when did he actually leave the vehicle? And another thing, when did he leave home that day? Because
there's going to be a witness when the car's abandoned, though, isn't there?
Eventually, yes. And that witness is, well, there's two, I think. One's kind of questionable, but one they take pretty serious.
Well, they're going to claim that there's two people in the car.
Now, we know that when Jenny left for work, Logan was still at the house. Some reports have stated that he was heading off to work as well. However, we don't have any report or saying that he ever got there. Was he off for the day, or did he just decide to leave the house at some point? This case lacks a lot of information, and it's not due to the traditional reasons where investigators are holding shit back. I think that this is information that people just don't know. No malicious intent behind the lack of information. I just don't think they know because they just don't share a lot of details with each other about their daily movements, talking about the family. We cannot say we know where Logan was because we only know where his phone was, because we have no proof that Logan was actually with his phone. But if he was with his phone at some point, he's in an area for 45 minutes, which would lead you to believe that he was meeting up with somebody or having lunch with somebody or running errands in that general vicinity. Again, we have no evidence to tell us what that was. Personally, I think he was with his phone. I don't think his phone did all the traveling and he was done away with.
You can do a whole lot in 45 minutes, too.
Oh, yeah. Now, we know that later in the day, the phone is moving almost like it starts heading in one direction and then kind of turns around. And then it heads back to where it came from, then turns back around one more time and heads back to where it just came from. Now, these are kind of erratic and odd, and it's either it wasn't Logan doing a lot of those movements, or he's in a state of mind that is an erratic state. So kind of like, and it could be as simple as this. It could be like, all right, I'm going to do this. And then you get so far down the road and you're like, shit, I forgot something. And then has to turn around and go back. Or, all right, I got everything done down here in Camus. I'm heading back home. Fuck, I forgot to do this. I'm going to turn around and go back and get that one last thing done so I don't have to come back down here. It could be that easy explanation, but we don't know. Now, like Coach said, there are some eyewitnesses that claim they saw Logan's car. Some reports say that there are 2 eyewitnesses, some that there are 3, and as many as 4 has been reported. It comes down to how much law enforcement believe each one of these witnesses to be credible, however. So on Wednesday, after Logan had been gone for 6 days, Jenny contacted his sister and brother-in-law, not his sister, her sister and brother-in-law, Mike and Mary, to tell them that Logan was missing. Mike still has contacts from when he worked at the sheriff's office. And he spoke with the detective assigned to the case. And the detective basically told him they just didn't have a lot of information. But they did discover an important detail. And that important detail was a truck driver had called 911 after seeing something on I-5 the previous Friday. He reported a black Sebring convertible driving erratically. The car was swerving and driving too slow for the flow of traffic. Now, according to this truck driver, no one appeared to be behind the wheel while the vehicle was moving. The car was in the slow lane, which would be the far right lane, and then pulled onto the shoulder and stopped. The driver's door opened and then closed again. Then a man appeared from the passenger door and ran into the woods. The car, apparently still in gear or in neutral, began to roll and drifted across 3 lanes of southbound traffic, coming to a stop.
3 lanes?
Lounds, man. Coming to a stop after it runs into that center barricade in the center median. And that's where Logan's car would eventually be found. Now, this is some crucially important information, but it all comes down to the man the witness saw running into the woods. Reports are that the witness believes that the man he saw was white and about 6 feet tall. Logan is 6 foot tall, and he's biracial. So, depending on how fast the guy was traveling, one of those things, you could describe him as Caucasian. It's not out of the realm of possibility. Especially, like I said, if the witness is moving at like 75, 80 miles an hour. Now,
yeah, he's pretty light-skinned.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. So it checks the box. The question is, why would Logan, who has no history of behavior like this, do this? It also makes you wonder what was going on. If this was Logan, what was happening? Was he driving under the influence of possibly weed or alcohol, or just impaired from being tired? He had several jobs that he was working, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. If we knew from the tow truck driver or law enforcement that, quote, hey, when we came up on the car, it was in neutral or it was in drive or it was idling, we would, be able to check some things off here. We do know that it was traveling at a slow enough speed, according to the trucker, to make him concerned enough to call 911. One of the statements from the family regarding the vehicle was that the gear shift in this car was fairly loose. And they elaborated by basically saying that if somebody bumped the gear shift, it would be easy enough to bump it into a different gear or into neutral. So the prevailing thought is whoever was on the passenger seat getting out of the vehicle could have accidentally bumped it and put it into neutral. Now, Detective Frawley, who is currently the lead investigator, said unambiguously that there is only one witness who saw someone actually get out of the vehicle and flee into the woods. That was this truck driver. Now, this area of I-5 is not totally rural, but it is surrounded by acres of woods and was described by one of the searchers as, quote, thick and brushy. Now, this specific area was searched for Logan to no avail. And Logan was missing for 4 days before anyone realized he was missing. And there was a 6-hour search using 6 different search teams. And those teams all utilized both tracking and cadaver dogs and found nothing. That area was also flown over, I think, by helicopter using FLIR, which is forward-looking infrared radar, and heat-seeking technology. But again, they didn't find anything. If something bad had happened to Logan in that wooded area or the median area, he could have not been giving off any heat. And according to those searchers, it was pretty thick, so he could have been overlooked. But your cadaver dogs would have probably hit on it. So according to authorities and searchers, he is not in that wooded area. Now, police would pore over the 911 calls and found that another call could be related to Logan. Now, this call came in at 3 a.m. And now the vehicle was found at 2 p.m. on the 21st. So the same day earlier in the morning. So what, was that? 13 hours before the vehicle's found at 3 in the morning, same day. There's a driver at the intersection of Case Road and Poland Road. And this is really, 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 really close to where the vehicle was found. But this caller reported seeing a young man who was nude from the waist down stumbling across the roadway. The caller said the man that they saw was possibly black, but the caller wasn't 100% sure. And you may be thinking, how the hell do you not know if he was black or white? Well, you just saw a partially nude man run across the street. So you're in shock.
Yeah, it's not exactly.
It's not something you see every day.
And you just see it for a second or so, and you probably wiener gazing. You didn't notice. It was.
And I said, don't look, Ethel. Too late.
So if this is him, we've got a guy that's clearly in distress. He's nude from the waist down, and he has none of his personal possessions on him. You would think somebody like that would seek help from someone.
Correct. But
I would assume, unless he completely just doesn't want any help. He's just completely broke at this point.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Well, the rub here is this intersection is where there's a lot of crackheads. And you could have just had a crackhead run around naked from the waist down with no pants on after a bad trip. There's zero evidence that it was Logan, and there's zero evidence that it wasn't Logan. But Jenny says that, and she's standing on business when she says this, and other family members have said the same, they don't believe he was a hard drug user. He was just your typical teenager that liked to drink, smoke a little bit of pot, but he liked to smoke a lot of pot that made him paranoid.
He may have got a bad batch.
He could have. They do not believe that this sighting was Logan. And with his history and his character, this would have been something they said they would have seen or had inclination about. It seems much more likely that it was somebody else that was spotted, and this 911 call was just somebody calling in to report that, hey, there's this guy running around at the intersection with his dingling out. Y'all might want to come down here and check this out. So, Logan's social media accounts have not been touched since his disappearance. 8 months after he went missing, the sheriff's department released a public statement that all leads had been exhausted at the time. They were out of ideas and pleaded with the public that they needed more help. The sheriff's department was very open, saying, look, we have no evidence to lead us to the conclusion that Logan is dead. However, we have no evidence to lead us to the conclusion that he is still alive. This isn't one of those cases that just went cold. This was a case that they were constantly putting out information and looking for the public's help. They were posting his picture and the sheriff's office phone number everywhere they could think to look for information. And that was from the law enforcement side too, so you also have the family doing the same thing. Now, 13 months after he went missing, at the end of June of 2017, another witness came forward who believed she had information. Now, the family seized on this information, seeming to accept it as legitimate, and sure enough, this was Logan. Now, the sheriff's office received a tip from a woman who says she saw Logan's car on the freeway that day that he went missing. What we don't know is it's not clear what that means, the day he went missing. Does that mean Thursday, when his grandmother Jenny was the last one to see him when she headed off to work, or was this Friday, the day his car was found? Either way, the woman that came forward told deputies that the vehicle was sitting on the right shoulder of I-5 southbound near exit 95 when she was driving to work that day. And the same vehicle was still there on her way home from work. But this time, the hood was up and there was a black male standing at the rear of the vehicle, and there were two white males standing with him. She described one of the men as white, 6 foot tall and very thin, with thin blonde hair styled in a bowl cut, wearing jeans that she described as way too short and a tank top that was way too small. The sheriff's office released a sketch of this man who is, this will make you want to lock your doors at night, and I'll try to post a picture of this. But this evidence sketch is like something straight out of a damn horror movie. And a lot of Reddit users, you can find it on Reddit. Somebody, and this is, you got to find something to laugh about in this case because it's just horrible. But they like automatically, as soon as that picture is released, they're like, fuck, Marilyn Manson was driving.
Huh.
But anyway, so law enforcement releases this sketch of the creepy looking dude, and the other dude, the lady says, was also white with shoulder length blonde hair, wearing a flannel shirt and jeans. According to this woman, she didn't get a very good look at this man. So I don't know if they didn't do a sketch or she just didn't have enough details to have a sketch done. Either way, there's not been anything released about what this guy looks like. So if this was Logan, if this sighting is true, he was in the company of two men whom police have not been able to identify right before he goes missing. Again, if this lady's account is true, then this car was in the general area of where Logan's car was found. But given her description, his car had to move at some point. Now, the family believes this sighting to be authentic, but there's no reason to doubt that it wasn't Logan. One, the woman who supposedly saw him is speeding by on the highway. So she could have been mistaken. Two, this lady comes forward 13 months after he went missing.
That's a long time.
Which begs the question, what convinced her in 13 months that it was Logan that she passed that day? Three, as far as I know, there's no indication whatsoever that Logan's car had any kind of vehicle trouble when it was returned to the family. You would think that if it had mechanical trouble, or if it was out of gas, or the battery was dead, or it was inoperable, that Jenny would have said something when she called the cops and it was towed back to her house. The hood being up could have been some kind of ruse to keep people from stopping. This witness claims that when she initially passed the vehicle on her way to work, it was on the right shoulder, which is the outside shoulder. When she comes back from work, now the hood's up, and we talked about the vehicle moving, but if it was abandoned on the right shoulder hours before it was found, you would think that maybe somebody would have called it in, or police would have come by and tagged it again. And I don't think that happened. Now, there was one man who was looked at as a possible suspect in Logan's disappearance. Now, Uncle Mike stated that Logan was not happy living at Grandma's house after he got back from college. And the reason was, while he was at college, his sister Chloe and her boyfriend's 2 kids moved into Grandma's house too. And boyfriend's name is Jake. And Jake and Logan did not get along very well. And depending on who you talk to, you get a large discrepancy in the meaning of dislike. Uncle Mike says they outright hated each other, and it came to fists a couple of times. Grandma Jenny says that they weren't friends, they just kind of avoided each other, and it was no big deal. Now, Jake's got a little bit of a rap sheet. He was convicted on some domestic violence charges after pleading guilty to felony assault in a previous relationship, which was an incident in 2013. Keep in mind, Logan disappeared in May of 2016. Jake does not match the creepy ass drawing of the guy they released, or the sketch that this woman saw. And what we can surmise is that Jake and Logan butted heads, probably. If we take Jenny's version of the relationship, they didn't like each other. They kind of just agreed to disagree. However, if you take Uncle Mike's take on it, they outright hated each other. So in October of 2016, good old Jake was arrested for violating his probation. Now, police used this as an opportunity to question him about Logan's disappearance, and they even polygraphed him. Reports are that he passed the polygraph. Uncle Mike has been very public that he is extremely skeptical of this whole situation. Quote, the polygraphs can be beaten, or it could be just not administered correctly, end quote.
Yeah, I don't. Our opinion on polygraphs. I'm not for them.
No.
They're so fallible, and you're not catching me taking one.
Ever. Now, it is possible that Jake and Logan got into some altercation after Grandma Jenny left for work that Thursday. And this is all hypothetical. Something could have happened to Logan, and now you got a situation where you got to move a vehicle, and then you got to leave it somewhere. If Logan was the victim of foul play, the movement of the vehicle and where the vehicle was found makes absolutely zero sense. And I understand that you want to abandon a vehicle to make it look like something happened. I even get that you want to abandon it on the side of the road and make it look like that he broke down or he took off on foot or something like medically happened to him. I get that having it lodged up against the center barricade in the median is basically icing on the cake. What I don't get is we have a witness who says they saw the moving vehicle, but nobody driving said moving vehicle. There is no shortage of theories in this case, but we are going to touch on the ones that are more plausible. The first one that has been put forth was by Thurston County Sheriff's Office. They say that there's a possibility that Logan was experiencing some kind of psychotic break. In 2016, Sergeant Carla Carter of the Thurston County Sheriff's Office, say that fast a couple of times. She said, quote, "We're not sure what happened, but there was some indication perhaps of some mental health issues," end quote. Logan was the age that schizophrenia often manifests itself, and apparently in some people, underlying mental illness can be stimulated by excessive marijuana use. If Logan was having a psychotic episode, it would explain his withdrawn and irregular behavior, his paranoia, this epiphany that he tells his grandmother about, and this weird disappearance. It could also possibly explain the eyewitness that saw a half-naked man. If he's going into some kind of psychosis or psychotic break, then it's very possible that was Logan that somebody saw half naked on the side of the road. The rub on this theory, though, is that you would think there would have been more eyewitnesses that also saw this. Other than the thick woods, it doesn't seem like the area was a very desolate place. Now, Thurston County Sheriff's Office also put forth another big theory, and this one is that Logan is in fact still alive, and he left on his own accord. They theorized that he could have wanted a fresh start, and this is one of the main reasons they have been so transparent with the public with the information that they have, and was seeking the public's help in finding and locating Logan.
Yeah, but a fresh start with no money, no phone, no wallet, no nothing. How easy do you think it is to just restart your life?
Well, that's what people don't understand. It's not like it takes a lot of pre-planning, a lot. Like you got to start unplugging shit from, because you're plugged in more than you think you are.
Yeah.
Even if you buy a burner phone, you're still plugged in. And it would take a whole lot of self-discipline not to access anything of your old life digitally.
Right. Damn near impossible.
Yeah. Now, Logan's phone has been thoroughly traced and tracked by law enforcement. Some of his last texts were to his online friend that happens to be a girl. Remember, they never met in person. Her name is Carolina, and Logan says to her in a text, quote, "I don't know if I'm going to survive this week," end quote. Now, this would be right around the same time, possibly the day before he says to his grandmother, Jenny, "I've had an epiphany." Now, something's definitely going on with Logan. It may be as simple as he's having an identity crisis, or it is a mental break. He would have definitely not known what was up or down. And the text in the epiphany could have been a cry for help. There were also text messages from Jenny, Grandma Jenny. She says she came home and Logan's not there, but the TV that should have been in his bedroom was in the family room unplugged. Now, she checks to make sure it's not broke, found that it works just like it should. There's nothing wrong with it. And we know that this actually happened because there are texts that Logan never responded to where she asked him, A, where are you at? And B, is there something wrong with your TV? There are several reasons as to why he could have moved the TV to the family room. It could be something as simple as he was moving something around in his room and needed to get the TV out of the way. He was going to take it to a friend's house, or he was packing it up. Now, Grandma does point out the paranoia, and a lot of people have chalked that up to the fact that he's smoking a lot of pot, which is a common side effect. The paranoia could have been the start of some kind of schizophrenia episode. And if we chase the schizophrenia rabbit, there are sufferers that believe they are being listened to through electronics that are in their general vicinity. So was the TV in the family room because Logan thought that that TV was listening to his thoughts? The bad thing about the paranoia is that Jenny is the only one that ever mentioned it. We do have those former friends that seem to agree with the idea that Jenny puts forward, and that is the summer before, a year prior to him disappearing, he starts withdrawing from his group of friends, and he decided to change colleges at the last minute. But keep in mind, Logan felt that his friends, air quotes around that, didn't have his back when that racist-ass girl said some shit about him at the party. So the biggest obstruction, and this is totally my opinion, and I've kind of hinted around about it, and I'm not really throwing shade. This is so different. The biggest obstruction, in my opinion, in this case is this family's not close, and it's hindered this investigation. There's some kind of drama going on that makes this family dynamic extremely odd. Not odd in the sense that they're horrible people or they're hiding shit. It's just odd. It's just off. And this underlying offness seems to be throwing a huge monkey wrench into getting information about certain aspects of the case. There are reports where Jenny states that Logan visited his mother between the time that she last saw him and the time he went missing. There are other reports that state the mom has said she had seen him the week before he went missing, which smells extremely crazy to me. And it could be cleared up if the mom would just release a statement, but that has not happened that I'm aware of. The family motto is almost like, quote, yeah, we're related, but we're just all on our own here, and we may or may not see each other under the same roof. The family's not very united, at least that I could find, on saying we know that this, followed by this, and this happened, and then all of a sudden Logan's gone. My honest opinion is that this is causing problems. You would have expected the family to rally around Sister Chloe's boyfriend after he's cleared by saying, yeah, he's got a checkered past, but him and Logan were not best friends, but they weren't mortal enemies. Again, we don't have any of that shit.
Well, that's not necessarily true. You don't know if they liked him to begin with, or they still suspect him themselves. There's nothing saying they got to rally around him.
Well, no, I'm saying if he was innocent, like if he was truly innocent, and they thought that there's no, like if he had no, like he was at work when Logan was, like they orbited in different things. That's what I'm talking about. Like all of this shit could be cleared up. Like somebody could just come out and say, all right, the mom's not going to talk to you, but we've spoken to her and she saw him on this date. Grandma saw him on this date. Crazy old boyfriend, Jake from State Farm. He's still wearing his khaki pants, but they don't hate each other. They just never saw each other after a disagreement.
Right.
So Uncle Mike seems to have been the closest to Logan and stated again that Jake and him got into fistfights. And another oddity is Jenny's husband, Bill. He's kind of like an afterthought. There's no mention of him in any of the stories about Logan, about whether or not they had a decent relationship when he was in high school, any of that stuff. And it could have been as easily explained away as that step granddaddy Bill always worked, or Logan was always at school or practicing sports when he was off. So again, it's just a lot of shit could be cleared up if you had someone from the family saying, hey, we've seen, because you know they read this stuff, we've seen this online, we need to clear up some things. Now, on the list of bizarre shit with this family, and I'm not saying that she's a horrible person, I'm just saying this is odd to me, and I still go back to this, is that Grandma Jenny didn't call 911 that night.
Right.
She waits 2 months.
It is kind of strange, but I don't know, man.
Well, like I said initially, I understand, because you're walking that knife's edge. He's an adult. He's going through something. Maybe he's just, he needs some time to clear his head. But at the same time, you've got that sneaking suspicion. You got that gut feeling something's off. But anyway, again, there's no record that this, all right. So I guess here's the thing. The record kind of thing is another oddity. Mike worked for the same fucking sheriff's department that she's trying to report him missing. As soon as she finds out that they're closed, my next phone call would have been, Mike, the hell do I do? Sheriff's office closed. I ain't found Logan's not been home in 2 days. Is there somebody I can call that will come see me? As far as I know, she didn't do that. And you can't convince me that he worked at a sheriff's office for 37 years and he doesn't have contacts or he doesn't know protocol if the office is closed. But anyway, I bring all this up because we know in an investigation, you start with the inner circle and you vet those people that are closest to your victim and you slowly increase that circle till you get to the periphery of people that circulated in their lives. With this disconnected family, it appears to me that authorities do not know where they need to be looking from the very beginning. I also don't know if there's enough evidence, again, because the family's not talking, to show that Logan was having some mental break or had some mental issues. Again, a simple statement of there's no family history of mental illness in our family. There's no history of schizophrenia in our family. Again, none of that shit's been released. But anyway, one thing I do want to do is give the investigators and the Thurston County Sheriff's Department a round of applause, because despite all the kerfuffle with everything that's going on in this case, the family dynamic, the missing 911 calls, all that stuff, or with Logan missing and the 911 calls, not missing 911 calls, they've done a tremendous job. Overall, the family's commitment to finding Logan has been pretty solid. The family was forced to take matters in their own hands that night when Jeannie couldn't or decided not to call 911, and they also had to take it into their own hands when the sheriff's office basically had a public outcry and said, we're out of leads. We've run out of ideas. We need your help. So the family did step up, and they started the Logan Schiendelman is Missing Facebook page, which has, I think, over 15,000 members. They hired a private investigator and created a reward fund that is at $10,000. And they raised all that money by themselves through yard sales and making commemorative bracelets that they sold to the public. Some of them have even hounded the local TV news channels to continue coverage on Logan's case. In February of 2017, Logan's family sent letters to 37 homeowners in the Case Road area, and that is the area where his car was found, asking them to please check their yards and their properties for anything suspicious. Now, this case has been assigned to Detective Frank Foley, and the family feels confident that the case is being worked by someone who cares and by someone who wants to find Logan as badly as they do. If you or anyone you know has any information, please call the Thurston County Sheriff's Office at 360-786-5500. Coach, what do you think?
Man, I'm at a loss, really, because it's just, I want to say mental break because that's what it's looking like, but you give no real indication that it was coming. Like, there had to be some signs.
And that's where I go back to the
away from everything.
It makes the most sense that he had a mental break. And whether that was brought on by extreme heavy pot use, who cares? If he did have one, he had one. I don't know. I mean, and here's the thing. They may not have a family history of it. He don't know who the fuck his dad is.
Right.
His dad could have a whole litany of shit wrong with him. And the problem is, mental illness is passed on from the father's side.
But the question now would be, where did he go? Why has he not been found?
Right. And that's, from what I can gather, that wooded area wasn't like a national forest.
If it was a mental break, you'd think he'd turn up somewhere. His body, his person, something somewhere. He just can't disappear. Is it possible that he somehow had secret let's say he did find his father, had some sort of secret conversations with him, and he fucked off to Saudi Arabia.
Well, and that's a great point. I thought about that. I don't know what and I'm sure they looked into his financials, but again, they may not have been able to access his financials because they can't prove any wrongdoing, and he's an adult and he can fuck off wherever he wants to. And like you said, he could have had the money and just said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going over there. I'm going to find him.
Maybe he did. Maybe he's living over there. Because, I mean, that's definitely a country where if they don't want information getting out to America, it's not getting out.
Well, no, and the other thing is, and this is not me profiling or anything, but if you look up a picture of him, he could easily easily blend in over there, especially if his father did all the talking for him.
Right. I mean, it's not very likely, but
weirder shit's happened.
Yeah, I mean, it really has. We've covered plenty of cases where strange things have happened, so you never know, really. Did he have a passport already? Do we know that?
Well, see, and that's the other thing. There's a lot of these questions, and a lot of these questions that we're posing have been posed online, and I go back to, I'm really not shitting on the family. You did a good job raising money. You've got a Facebook page. You hired a private investigator. You've championed the cause. Hire somebody like a spokesperson for the family. And it could be one of those simple things. You pay them one time. Hey, we've seen this. The private investigator has found that people are asking these questions, and release a formal statement. And you could put it on your Facebook page and go item by item. No, there was no mental illness that we knew of on our side of the family. No, this whole racial bullshit about me not allowing him to go see his black side from his granddaddy's side is horseshit. All of that stuff could be answered, and they just don't.
Well, you feel like since you are researching this case, you feel entitled to this information.
You damn right I do. I have spent way too much fucking time.
They don't owe us anything.
They don't owe the public anything. But I think I guess, and I'm trying to think about this rationally, which I know I'm not. But if I knew there was a lot of questions around my son missing, and if I thought for 1 second me answering all of them would help find him, I would do it. But you're right. They don't owe us shit.
True.
I don't owe you a dang thing.
No, they don't.
So I, like your theory, or like you think the most plausible is he did have a psychotic break, but there's no telling where he's at.
And he just happened to successfully disappear, regardless if that means he perished and they just haven't found his body. He did something to where he was able to drop off the face of the earth.
Yeah, and if
whether he met tragedy or not.
And it could be one of those where he's a John Doe at a mental, I don't even know. Does the state of Washington have mental institutions?
I'm sure they do.
Well, shit, we don't.
What happened to Milledgeville?
They shut that bitch down just like they did over here yeah.
Well, there's some in Tennessee.
Well, see, and I think it's state by state, but it's just I'm not sure about Washington. If they do have mental institutions where they have people that have, just show up at a hospital, or they get, hey, we got a half-naked man running around here that don't know his name. He has no identification on him, and they can't figure out what's going on. He could be sitting in a hospital somewhere. I don't know, man. I really don't know. And the other oddity about that leads you more to a mental break is it didn't seem like, outside of that racist bitch at that party, anyone hated him.
Right.
It's not like he had it was a girlfriend and then there was a jealous boyfriend from the past, or he bumped into somebody that hated it. From all I could find, he was very well liked, kept to himself, was trying to go to school and work.
Right. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Well, that makes us two of a bunch. I had a recommendation, and this is an upcoming recommendation. If I can find it. My fat fingers ain't working. Where's that son bitch at? Did I delete it? May have. Looks like I might have. There's a new something coming on the old TV, and that ain't it. There it is. Found it. It is called Paradise. It's going to be on Hulu, and it starts January 28th. It's going to have Julianne Nicholson James Marsden, and Sterling K. Brown. It looks very, very interesting.
What's that going to be about?
Well, if I'm remembering correctly, and I've not Googled it in a minute, so if I'm remembering correctly, it is around someone getting into a higher position in government and uncovering some shit. But if you will hold on 1 second, I'll put it in the old Google machine. It is yes. See, look at me and my memory being good. It is it's going to be centered around a Secret Service agent assigned to protect a former president. It looks like something might have happened to it, that president. Yep, that's it. They think he killed him.
I might have to check that out. I need to check out that American Gothic or whatever it is on Netflix. You said it was like Yellowstone. What was it called again?
Oh,
is it American Gothic?
I don't think so. God damn it. There you go again. Netflix. Top 10. It's something, you know, Gothic ain't going to be in it now. American Primeval, you dumb bastard.
Oh, same thing.
God. See, I knew Gothic was going to be in there.
I'm going to recommend Beyond SNL. It's on Peacock right now. It's a 4-part docu-series about Saturday Night Live.
I've heard that's pretty good.
They do a whole episode on the cowbell sketch.
Really?
The whole episode. Episode 2, the entire episode is about the cowbell sketch. I got a fever. And the only prescription is more cowbell.
Tom Segura. I didn't realize Tom Segura hated Steven Seagal. But it is.
I think everybody hates Steven Seagal.
They had what's the guy that used to be on SNL that wore the glasses and Al Franken.
Yeah,
he had him on his podcast, not with Bert Kreischer, but with his wife, and he asked him about
house or something like that.
Yeah, he asked him about Steven hosting the one time Steven hosted, and Al said it was so bad that Lauren made the comment that he was the worst host they had ever had. And then, like Al said, like fast forward 13, 14 months, and he's supposed to be on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and he comes out there, and guess who's just got done? And between a commercial break, Steven Seagal leans over and says, "Why did you and your boss say I was the worst host?" And he said Jay saves his ass because he said it just hit him out of left field. He said that Jay was like, "Oh, you know, they had to say that. It's kind of like a rub. You're really not the worst. You know, they're just saying that to get you more publicity so people will watch it when it comes back on." He's like, "Oh, that makes sense."
You know, Tom Segura actually got deposed
in the
Garth Brooks shit.
Yeah.
He had to give like legal statements because he's the one champion that Garth Brooks is actually a serial killer.
Well, I think he's the most vocal, but I think someone clued him in on it. Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it'll make you scratch your head, that's for sure. Well, Coach, you got anything else?
Oh, you know I don't.
Deuces.